today, where Jesus is Lord. What a privilege to talk to you today out of Psalm 80. Psalm 80 opens with something like, the shepherd that led Joseph like a flock. The idea, Joseph not being the person, but Joseph being the people of Israel. The God who led the people of Israel like a flock, kind of like a shepherd. And then later on in 3 verses in this passage, the psalmist says, "Turn us, O God, and make your shining upon us again." Your face, so to speak, to shine upon us again. I think the idea is the people of Israel were in bondage in Egypt. A vine, Psalm 80 would say. This vine was in Egypt, and God brought the vine out into a wonderful, spacious place. And victories over the enemies, a land flowing with milk and honey. But now, Israel is in a difficult spot again. It's as if they're in Egypt, although they aren't. And they're saying, "Turn us again, O God, and shine upon us." The idea, I think, is, remember that good thing when you brought us out of Egypt, God? Do that again. Turn us again to that kind of life. Turn us again to the miraculous life. Turn us again to the victory over the enemy life. Turn us again. And as I meditate on this passage, I think of those of us who've also had God bring us out of Egypt. And He's brought us out with a mighty hand. He's brought us out with great strength and great joy and great miracles. With the psalmist, we might say, "Now God, we're sort of in Egypt again, and we ask you to turn us again and shine upon us." So, for example, maybe you've been addicted in your life, and God brought you out of a glorious deliverance. He brought you out into a spacious land of freedom, and you've overcome that. But now, these many years later, you're in the need for God to do a financial miracle for you. You could join the psalmist in Psalm 80, Asaph, and you could say, "The God who was a shepherd to me, bringing me out of that addiction, I ask you to turn me again to that kind of victory. Return me to that kind of real-time walk with God." For those of you in ministry, maybe you have a time when you were laying hands on the sick and virtually everybody you prayed for was healed. But now you are in a season where you're praying with people and you are not seeing the power of God as you did. You could say with the psalmist, "Turn us again, O God, and shine on us." Or maybe in your health, God brought you out miraculously with a divine healing in your body. And it was like everything the doctors did worked, and God even did action where the doctors weren't necessarily needed. But you were able, by God's grace, to have that glorious experience with God. And you find yourself today saying, "God, turn me again to that kind of lifestyle. Turn me again to that kind of faith. Turn me again to that kind of joy." What about that? Seasons of your life where you were a vine brought out of Egypt into great joy. To quote the Bible, joy unspeakable and full of glory. But now you find yourself needing to be brought back into that joy. You can join the psalmist and say, "Turn us again, O God, and shine upon us." It's worth noting that shine upon us might be related to the glory of the Lord. That shine upon us might be related to that radiating presence. Notice he says, "Thou that dwellest between the wings of the cherubim." And so it's possible that the glory, the shine upon us, is saying, "Put your glory back on us again, O God. Arise, shine, for thy light is come, and the glory of the Lord has risen upon thee." It's reminiscent of the Aaronic blessing that says, "And make his face to shine upon thee." And so, not only do we ask God to return us to the kind of victorious life that He gave us when He brought us out of Egypt, but return us to a victorious life that also is carrying the glory of the Lord. That you would see a new radiating glory, His presence on your life and on your ministry. The glory of God is different than His presence. The presence of God is everywhere present. The glory of God comes in special measure as God designs, as God intends. And, early Pentecostals, we honored the glory. Our churches were called temples and tabernacles because that's where the glory resided. And we want God's glory. And so today, as you think through, am I in a place of second Egypt? I was in Egypt. God brought me out. Miraculously, gloriously brought me out. I was a vine in Egypt, but he brought me out. Turn me now, God, again to that kind of glory. Turn me again to that kind of miraculous life. It's my prayer today that those of you beginning second curves, you would be able to say, God, this first curve has been wonderful. Now I ask you to turn me again to that kind of glory that made the first curve so fantastic, that this second one will be equally as fantastic, that I will see the power of God in this curve, the actions of God in this curve. For those of you starting your first curve, you say, God, I had a wonderful experience in youth ministry. You brought me into great salvation. You brought me into deliverance when I was a teen. But now I'm headed off to college, or I'm starting my career. And the God that brought me out of Egypt with that strong hand, turn me again to that kind of great victory. The point being, my brothers and sisters, from Psalm 80 today, take courage that God is the God that returns us to the land that flows with milk and honey. He is the God that continues to work in our lives. Never measure in the middle. When you measure in the middle, it's almost always struggle. But when you measure as God develops fully his work in your life, you're able to see more of his eternal plan. And so, turn us, O God, and shine upon us. I'm coming to you from my hotel, the Artino Hotel in Bangkok. Thank you to the owners who are my friends. Thank you that they honor Christ. And God bless all of you as we turn ourselves again